Hello, welcome to my channel, Another Bibliophile Reads. My name is Greg, and since this is the beginning of Horror Mayhem 2024, I wanted to show you some of my vintage horror paperbacks. Some of them would be considered paperbacks from hell. Now, I am going to show them roughly in the order that they were published. There might be a few odds and ends that are out of order. But before I get to my vintage paperbacks, I just have to say that I finally picked up this book, Paperbacks from Hell by Gary Hendricks. This is the man who is responsible for all the high prices on some of the used books that I am going to be showing. I picked this up from Independent Bookstore Crawl that I was on earlier this week, where you're celebrating going to independent bookstores in your area. Okay, first book, I actually have two copies. This is Let's Go Play at the Adams. This is an American version, and this is the British version. This book was originally published in 1974, and it's about a lot of naughty school children doing terrible things to their babysitter. When I had a high school trip to England in the early 80s, one of the ladies, or say girls, bought a paperback of this book and was reading it in the back of the bus as we drove around England. So I know some of the really bad bits of this book, but it was the 80s, so I can't remember much. The Godsend by Bernard Taylor. This was originally published in 1976. For researching a different project, this is considered one of the best horror books written in the 70s. I did not know that. I picked this up for $1 at a used bookstore outdoor bin, which they thought was just trash books. What's really kind of interesting is that this particular edition of the book was printed in 1991. But the actual copyright page gives the original publication in Roman numerals. Is that normal, or are they trying to hide the fact that it was a republished old book? Well, anyway, it's about an evil child. You gotta love evil children. Now here's one from 1976. This ring light is reflecting off my covers. It is a new ring light that I'm trying. But this is The Space Vampires by Colin Wilson. It was made into a very naughty movie called Life Force that I saw when I was 18 or 19. And the only thing I really remember about that movie is that the main actress, Matilda May, was basically buck naked through most of the movie. You know, 18 and 19-year-old is really going to dig that. And this is about vampires from space. I have not read this one. Now, this may not qualify as horror. This is The Black Death, originally published in 1979. The authors were Gwyneth Cravens and John S. Marr. It is about a reoccurrence of the Black Plague coming back to New York City. It has a really nasty rat on the cover, and people are going to be dying of the plague. So if it's not horror, it's at least horror adjacent. I have not read it. This is a book that you'll be seeing me do for a future project that will be announced shortly. This is All Heads Turn, Will the Hunt Go by John Ferris, originally published in 1977. I don't really know what it's about, but it has this beautiful cover. Here is supposedly a killer animal book, again from 1977. This is Alligator by Shelley Katz. It does feature an alligator that eats people, but the alligator does not get enough page time or enough eating time. But it is technically about a killer animal, although mostly is two grown men trying to show who's got the bigger cojones in the swamps of Florida. It also has a really fabulous back cover. I'm not sure why they put all that much effort into the artwork on a back cover. This is from 1978. It is a book that needs no introduction. It is Stephen King's Night Shift, his first collection of short stories. Some people say it's his best. I'm not going to come out and say which of his collections of short story is best, but it has a beautiful step-back cover, which I just have to show off. And the fact that I got this for only $2.24, and it looks like it's never been read. Here is another book that may just be horror adjacent. This is the story of an escaped serial killer who got out of an insane asylum by reason of insanity by Shane Stevens. It is one of the best serial killer novels I have ever read. I read it in the 90s, and it's just fabulous. It was out of print for many years. I think there has been a reissue recently. So if you see this, pick it up. You won't be sorry you did. Here is a short story collection from Robert Bloch, Pleasant Dreams. Robert Bloch is more famously known as the author of Psycho. Although this edition was published in 1978, looking at the table of contents, it looks like most of the stories in this collection are from the 30s, 40s, and 50s. I did read this collection when I was in high school. I don't have any specific memories of individual stories, but I was able to pick up this used copy a couple of years ago, and someday I'll get around to reading some of these stories again. From 1981, Barry Wood's The Tribe. This is described when you go into the description. What The Exorcist was to Catholicism, The Tribe is to Judaism. This terrifying tale of Kabbalistic mysticism and magic will hold you shiveringly spellbound. And what's great is it's got a step-back cover. And you know, step-back covers are always worth showing off. This author is also known for the Book of the Twins. I saw it around in the 80s and the 90s in used bookstores, but I never picked it up and read it. Okay. Here is Ghoul by Michael Slade. He was a Canadian author. Again, this is either extreme thriller or horror, depending on how you want to classify it. I tried to read it in the 90s, didn't get far, and then I ordered a used copy off of the internet because someone on someone's channel was giving this book a lot of praise. I don't remember who was giving the praise to. But when I was doing the research for this book and saying when was this book published, which I said was 1987, I noticed something that you occasionally get when you order from the internet. You not only have a signed copy, but a personalized note from the author. To Dietemer, read this 1 second. Art reflects nobility, but what if nobility were to reflect out? Question mark. Something I can't read. Whodunit by page 373. Best wishes, Slade. So after I saw this note, I just had to go out and order Headhunter, which is the first in this series that he wrote, just because he says it. Read this 1 second. 1987, Dreamhouse by Christopher Fay. This is from the famous Zebra line of horror paperbacks. The Zebra line of horror paperbacks were cheesy and bad and wonderful. And a good friend sent me this as a gift for just doing videos. And I appreciate you sending it to me. And one day I'm going to get around to actually reading it. This book, I blame Michael K. Vaughan. This is Panzer Spirit by Tom Townsend, originally published in 1988. I believe someone sent a copy of this book to Michael K. Vaughan, and he's been promising to read it because it's about a haunted German tank. How can you not like that? And when I saw him review it on his channel, I went out and thrift books and ordered my own copy. Like MKV, I haven't gotten around to reading this one yet, but you know, Nazi skeleton on his tank, it's got to be a winner, or even if it's a loser, you got to enjoy something about it. Okay, 1989, Sins of the Flesh by Don Davis and Jay Davis. This is famously known for having perhaps the best step-back cover of all horror novels. And it's rather rare, although you can pick up used copies somewhat cheaply. I got this one for like $8 in not great condition, but not horrible condition. I also found a used copy when I was in Niagara Falls for $1, which had, frankly, really bad condition, but I sent it off to a friend for a book trade because this step-back cover is absolutely worth it. Yeah, whoever designed this cover really should have gotten an award for cover designs. Now, here is an author that a couple of people have been talking about recently. I originally read this back in the 90s. I remember a little bit about it. It was published in 1991. This is Cipher by Kathy Koja. It is about young people in a tenement apartment building. I don't think it's a very good apartment building, as I remember, who discover a hole in the basement to nowhere. And somehow that hole to nowhere gets transferred to the man's hands. That's all I remember, although a lot of people are really giving this high praise. It's worth a reread because I just don't remember it. It also is a step-back cover. Got that grisly face down below. And because Kathy Koja is kind of big, I'm picking up my other Kathy Koja paperbacks. This is from 1992, Bad Brains. This is one that I picked up after reading the Cipher. So I must have liked the Cipher enough to buy a second book by Kathy Koja. And I lied. I actually bought 2 more books by Kathy Koja. That was Skin by Kathy Koja, published in 1993. These two don't really have... Oh, this one has a little bit. This one does have a step-back cover. I was wrong. You got the face with some worms coming out of it. And you sort of see that in the front. I'm not sure I like this ring light. It's too much reflection on my books. I am borrowing this ring light from my wife. Okay, here's a book from 1994. I believe I read this for Garbogist, the first Garbogist. This is Blood Letter by Warren Newton Beath. This is a book about vampires. And it was fun. It was set in Los Angeles. There is a famous novelist writing a vampire series of books. And the series of books in this novel remind me just a little bit of Anne Rice and her Vampire Chronicles. Not quite the same, but you get the idea of a wildly successful group of vampire novels that is being turned into a Hollywood movie. The only problem is that the author who was writing these vampire novels is basing them on reality. And here is a truly horrible horror novel written in 1994. This is Slime by Jonathan Helkin. This is about killer jellyfish. People who know my channel know I like killer animal books. And turning jellyfish into carnivorous creatures that can come up through, sinks and kill people is just absolutely ludicrous. I read this as a buddy read with Juan from Plagued by Visions. We both agreed it was pretty bad, but entertaining enough. And lastly, I would like to show you this Symbiotic Fascination by Charlie Jacob. This is another vampire novel. I read it many years ago. I don't have a whole lot of succinct memories about the plot. other than that the female vampire lead was not a sexy vampire. She wasn't necessarily a ghoulish vampire. I believe she was just not what most people would consider a pretty woman or a pretty vampire. Well, that is some of my vintage horror paperbacks. Thank you so much for watching, and keep on reading.